Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Welcome, everybody. Really inspiring to hear Suzette and Mo speak about inclusion and about engaging with communities and using the terms football for all. So really inspiring start. Thanks for everybody for jumping on tonight and supporting. Yeah, so Steve Sweeney's I'm the National Coach Development Lead for the Football Association, particularly focusing on Black and Asian coaches. So diversity inclusion, so that would include disability and other groups. But our main focus is Black and Asian coaches. And we want to work with coaches, getting them into the pathway, maybe through the new level 0 playmaker or level 1, level 2, etc., and then support their development. And we also want to engage and work with those perhaps intentional coaches who just want to get on and really be the best that they can be. So it's working with existing coaches and working with potentially new coaches from new communities and people that perhaps feel there are barriers and things stopping them. Doing that with a brilliant team, two of which are on today. Lawrence, who's just going to jump in shortly and talk about some more specific work. But obviously, with so much going on this year that has affected, it's affected all of us, but it has been some really particular, powerful, and at times troubling issues facing communities. With obviously the COVID-19 has implications for Black and Asian minority people, with the Black Lives Matter. There have been many things that we've perhaps helped us reflect and think, how can we lean towards communities? How can we help? How can we make it a more inclusive and a safe environment for people to get on in football? So that's our key role. That's one of the key drivers for me. I'm really pleased to have been to Bristol on a number of occasions supporting Black History Month, and I'm always given a warm welcome. And for those that remember my speech a couple of years ago, I call Bristol Speightstown, having spent a number of occasions in Barbados. There is a place in Barbados called Speightstown, and its nickname is Little Bristol. Which is interesting, and that's a discussion perhaps for another day in terms of its historical links. But it's important we talk about that, and we talk about how we make it a more inclusive and a more open society that we can talk about things. I'm going to shut up for a short while because I love talking about inclusion and I love talking about Black and Asian coaches and how we can influence and support. So I'm going to introduce Loz and Andy to talk through some of the more specific work around the diversity and inclusion team.
Thanks, Steve. Jack, if you can just switch to the next slide and the one after this. Good evening, everyone. So my name's Lawrence Locke and I'm the newly appointed Coach Development Officer looking after the Southwest. With the recent kind of reshuffle in FA Education, we've now moved into a full super region team. So for the West, you've got myself and Matt Jones, who looks after West Midlands and the Southwest. In the North, we've got Pav Singh and Sarah Loudham, who are looking after the North East and Yorkshire and the Northwest. In the East team, we've got Lee Brown and Darren Moss, who look after the East and the East Midlands. And then in the South, we've got Danny Fenner, who looks after the South East, and Peter Augustine, who looks after London. So we're a team of 8 who are focused, as Steve said, purely on diversity and inclusion. But there's other strands of our work that will feed into across various avenues across the game. Jack, if you want to move on again. So this is our mission, and one of the key things is around addressing those stubborn inequalities. Steve, do you want to just talk about that, around how that impacts?
Yeah, really important. So some of our work is insight driven, and some of our work will be community engagement driven. So we recognise there are stubborn inequalities. We recognise there are oppression models which stop people functioning in society, stop people getting on. We recognise those are in football as well. For example, the Football Leadership Diversity Code that we've, as already mentioned by Suzette and Mo, that's another, if you like, it's another positive intervention to remove stubborn inequalities. But we're really committed to looking at stubborn inequalities in a way that How can we remove them? How do we get round them? How do we make sure that people get given opportunities in football to as Mo said, it's a beautiful game. They just want to get involved. How do we make sure that those stubborn inequalities don't stop people getting into the game?
Brilliant, thanks, Steve. And then with that, we're going to start looking at how we can encourage more coaches to step into the game. And what we mean by that is, if you're an intentional coach that wants to get into a professional game, we've got to have a pathway for you to support you through that journey. If you're a coach that just wants to develop the community, which is a lot of the work that I've done previously to this role, is to give people the understanding of why they want to develop that community and how, in my role, I can come and support those coaches. So like Mo said earlier, whether you're a coach that wants to really promote and get more kids to play football, how can I support you with that? If you're a coach working the grassroots game that might think there's an opportunity for me now through the coach placement program, how can I support you and make your journey, how can I help you through your journey? And for me and Steve and Andy is to really provide opportunity to support coaches through that journey. And where that then links into is the modern and inclusive approaches to coach development. So what we want to do is make it personalised and connected, but at the same time, there's got to be formal support through the coach education pathway, but there's got to be that informal support as well. And this is where Andy's work around mentoring, he's going to talk you more about the mentoring and how that's going to look moving forward. Andy.
Thanks, Lars, and good evening, everyone. Really inspiring to listen to, and great to see everyone this evening. And just picking up really on a couple of points that Mo mentioned. Actually, he mentioned a couple of things around leaving a legacy, and how do we get more people to step into these coaching roles. And I think one area that fits across all four of those things you can see on the screen at the moment is mentoring. And how do we get more mentors? How do we get more mentors from different communities to be able to help people along those journeys, whether it's someone in their initial first steps into coaching or into sport, or whether it's someone who's further down the pathway, as Loz said, who's more around the club placement program and further down their qualifications. I think during the last few months, getting the balance between education and development is something that the balance is shifting more from what we traditionally have been of an education-based governing body to more around development of our coaches and development of our workforce. And within that, mentoring's got a huge role to play around developing the individual and developing the person that's behind that as well, and helping them gain confidence. And again, linking back to something Mo said around how do we get more people to step into them roles, having mentors and having people that they can talk to, they can be supported by, will really help with some of those aims and ambitions as well. So traditionally, we've had a mentor program that got paused, obviously through this process around COVID and where we're currently at. But we will have a team of mentors that are working within our coach development officer network, and that'll be coming over the coming months. So my request really and my ask is if people do want help, want support, want guidance, firstly, we are here as a team. Myself, Loz in the southwest, along with other colleagues, but we will also have a team of mentors that will be able to help and support as well. Hopefully soon to be able to get out and help you either digitally if we're still in the current COVID restrictions, or potentially further down the line on the grass and help out with you in your communities, trying to help you get a little bit better and develop a little bit further.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. And that's kind of led into the final part around digital first. Sorry, Jack, if you go back one. So obviously we've got the Playmaker, the Level 0 course that's been launched. Again, that's a free qualification that coaches in the community can access. And that's kind of the first stepping stone to get into coaching. Coaches that have gone through the pathway historically, we've got the YouTube channel where there's a variety of videos that coaches can go and access. And then we've also launched the FA coaching community, and that's where we're going to have a lot more of articles, lots of ideas and support for coaches to go and access. So again, it's an opportunity for coaches to enhance their learning through a digital approach, but that's where coaches can go and get that support whilst in this current climate. And then something that we are moving forward where Suzette and Mo talked about extending Black History Month. We're going to be launching a variety of webinars where, again, coaches, community leaders, anyone can come and support and come and watch moving forward. Jack, moving on. Thank you. And Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Lars. Thanks, Andy. Just to sum up then, we really do believe that's on the slide, but actually, we've got to demonstrate that, we've got to prove that, and we've got to bring that to life, and we've got to do that in collaboration with the county FA, people on the calls, with clubs, with the IAG. We've got to celebrate differences, and we've got to provide support for all, and we recognise that there will still be people that feel disaffected and still have barriers and still have inequality and feel that they can't dive in and be part of something. And we would ask those people to work with us and support us and tell us what's going on, so we can help them collectively with County FA, with all the stakeholders, the community leaders, to do that. And the final thing I'm going to say is my favourite African proverb. That is, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And we fully intend to do this and go together and take people along with us, offering them the right levels of support. Jack, I think, are we going to play the video, Jack, on the Football Leadership Diversity Code?
It's time for change.
2020 has seen the important conversation around equality, diversity and inclusion rise in the public's consciousness.
Football has been great at campaigning for change, but now we need to drive that change from within.
We have to fight discrimination on and off the pitch.
The business case for diversity is clear.
We know we have diversity on the pitch, but we need to do more of it.
Ensuring the best people are hired remains paramount, but much more can be done to make the game truly representative of our society.
We have come together to tackle this through the new Football Leadership Diversity Code, because we want access to opportunities for all.
Every professional club in the country will be able to sign up to firm commitments so that leadership reflects our nation and coaches reflect the people who play the game.
Our principles and targets at the heart of the code are:
our coaches should reflect our players' diversity.
Our senior administration's diversity should match the local population.
Our recruitment will be based on merit, drawing from a diverse pool of candidates.
Our organisation will publish their diversity action plan and will share progress every year.
Many clubs are doing great work in this space, but it's time to take the next step.
Football unites us all and is the foundation of our communities across the land.
Our game needs to better reflect and inspire the nation.
Now is our time for change.
Thanks for sorting that out, Jack. Much appreciated. Welcome. Steve, Lawrence and Andy. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that presentation. Have we got any questions, Matt?
There's not any additional ones that have come in. The only one we did receive prior to this evening, as mentioned earlier, was what is your hope vision for the inclusion of BME coaches and referees from grassroots to the professional and international? I think Lawrence and Steve and Andy kind of touched on that, but I don't know if there's anything else you might be able to add, Lawrence or Andy, in terms of, I suppose, what that pathway might look like. You talked about sort of that going from grassroots into the professional game, but how might that pathway look for a coach or an aspiring coach?
Yeah, do you want me to answer this one, Steve and Andy?
Yeah, you can. I can jump in as well.
Yes, please, Lars. We're here to support as well. Yep.
Yeah. So, it's a really good question, and like we said, it's all about providing opportunity for the coaches that want to progress further, and also getting rid of those barriers that historically were in the way. So the coach placement program, for example, we had 13 clubs sign up this year, and one of the intentions for myself is to have Bristol City and Bristol Rovers on that list next year. So if there are coaches that have who have gone through the pathway to the UEFA B level, they're able to apply. The other one was at Southampton, who've got a satellite centre over in Bath. We've got coaches from Gloucestershire County FA who have been through the coaching pathways with you guys to have that opportunity to get onto that pathway. And then it's my role to work with Butch to create a pool of coaches who want to progress to the next level, and for me to be able to support them through that journey. At the moment, we've had a couple of coaches who applied who weren't successful, and it's my role now is to get them in a position by next year that there's going to be 3 opportunities in Gloucestershire County FA where they can then get that opportunity to really progress through. And starting off as a volunteer, like a lot of people on this call will have started out on, and to really help them and engage them through that transition into professional coaching and into a full-time role. Steve and Andy, is there anything that?
Just linking back to you at the start, Lars, when you talk about personalised and connected learning opportunities, I think every coach is different, will require different things at different times. So it's being able to bespoke that offer for coaches to be able to help them and give them what they need when they need it, and hopefully then through, and I'll be selfish from a mentoring angle, hopefully be able to open up opportunities and avenues for people to progress further, whether that's opening the door with a contact or an individual we know or a club, or whether that's around support around their own coaching journey. I think it's both of those really, but links back to that personalised and connected piece of giving people what they need when they need it.
Yeah, agreed. The only thing I would add, Lars, Andy, is absolutely. We also want to recognise intersectionality. We also want to recognise that we might need to do specific and have interventions for females. We recognise that we might need some specific support in the disability pathway, in the LGBTQI pathway. We recognise that there will be a need for us to be really caring and offer, as Andy says, bespoke support to the person or the people that are in front of us. We do recognise that, and with that we recognise there are challenges, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't all, as I said, work together to understand how we best support the people in front of us.
Thanks, guys. Any more questions now then, Matt, or is that the only one you've had?
Nothing else that's come in. As I say, if anyone does have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we can either revisit them at the end or pick them up as we go through. Okay, thanks again, gents. And as I said, if any more questions for Steve, Andy, or Lawrence, please let us know, and we can ask them at the end. I'm going to go on to